Won't stop to sicknesses if we don't seek the help. All eyes be my witness when I speak was felt. Full house on my hands, the cards I was dealt. 3 Ks, 2 A's in America. I'm just a black space born out the nebula. And everything I do will say today that's worthwhile. With assurance by your action and your first child, I begin my first nap. Sometimes I'm speaking, I feel like it ain't my words. Like I'm just a vessel channeling inside this universe. I feel my ancestors arrested inside of me. It's like they want me to shoot my chance and change the society. But how do I go about it? Tell me where I start. My destiny rerouted when I chose to follow heart. You chose to follow suit, but tell me what to do for you. Except when you down, now you trapped inside the cubicle they built for us. The first step in the change is to take notice. Realize the real games that they try to show us. 300 plus years of them cold shoulders. The 300 million numbers still got no focus. Sorry America, but I will not be your soldier. Obama just wasn't enough, I need some more closure. And Donald Trump is not equipped to take this country over. Let's face facts, cause we know what's the real motives. In the land of the freeze for the freeloaders. Leave us dead in the street to be the organ donors. They disorganized, my people made us all loners. Still got the last names of our slave owners. In the land of the freeze for the freeloaders. Leave us dead in the street to be the organ donors. They disorganized, my people made us all loners. Yeah, we can't change the world unless we change ourselves. Die from the sicknesses if we don't seek the help. All eyes be my witness. witness when I speak was felt. Full house on my hands, the cards I was dealt. 3 Ks, 2 A's in America. I'm just a black space born out the nebula. And everything I do is say today that's worthwhile. With assurance by your action. Trickery in the system, put my niggas in prison. All our history hidden, ain't no liberty given. We all fit the description of what the documents written. We've been lacking the vision and barely making a living. We too worried to fit in, while they been benefiting. Every time you submit it, we all good to admit it. The law won't get you acquitted, but you still ask for forgiveness. For opiates and syringes, then inject us religion. Now many times I gotta tell you I'm a man in the mission. Many times I gotta tell you I don't need no permission. A human with supervision, ain't no living condition. I'm reaching out to my children, just hoping that they will listen. Start a new coalition against corrupt politicians. It's not enough opposition. Too many murder convictions. Nothing family evicted. Nothing black man the victim. That's as real as it's getting. You should take recognition. In the land of the free is full of freeloaders. Leave us dead in the street to be the organ donors. They disorganized my people, made the sword owners. Still got the last names of our slave owners. In the land of the free is full of freeloaders. Leave us dead in the street to be the organ donors. They disorganized my people, made the sword owners. Yeah. Can't change the world unless we change ourselves. Die from the sicknesses if we don't seek the help. All eyes be my witness when I speak was felt. Full house on my hands, the cards I was dealt. 3 Ks, 2 A's in America. I'm just a black space born out the nebula. And everything I do is say the day that's worthwhile. With assurance by your action of your first child. Yeah.
Gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Dr. Jane Sanders.
Support an extraordinary man that we all support, my husband, Bernie Sanders. As I look about this incredible crowd, a huge crowd, I see people from every single background. Apropos for the melting pot we call New York. Most of our ancestors came here, ours came from New York, but they came to America to find a better life. Mine came from Ireland to escape famine and poverty, and Bernie's came from Poland to escape anti-Semitism and poverty. They all believed they could create a better life for future generations here in America, and they could. But over the last 40 years, that promise has been eroding, and Bernie plans to change all that. Improving the quality of life for all Americans and building a country based on fairness, compassion, and justice is at the core of Bernie's message. here to tell you Bernie's back, and he's... He's healthy, and he's more than ready to continue his lifelong struggle to fight for the working people of America. Now, you'll be hearing from some extraordinary people today, and nobody has embodied the agenda that Bernie is fighting for more than Oscar award-winning filmmaker and best-selling author Michael Moore. From his first documentary, Roger and Me, to his many other extraordinary films, Michael has exposed the lies of U.S. domestic and foreign policy, the cruelty of our dysfunctional healthcare system, and debunked the excesses of capitalism. Michael has spent his whole life exposing hypocrisy at the highest levels of power, from the CEOs to the presidents, much to their embarrassment. Just like Bernie, Michael Moore is committed to making America a more caring, compassionate country. And that's why today I am so proud to introduce the next speaker, our true friend, Michael Moore.
Thank you. The first time that I spoke for Bernie at a rally was the time that he first won his seat in Congress in Vermont in 1990. It was, he had called me. They were trying to find celebrities so that there could be a big crowd, but this was just a few months after my first film, and nobody really knew who I was. And I said, haven't you tried anybody else that could bring in a bigger crowd? The big stars at that time were Crocodile Dundee, Milli Vanilli, Vanilla Ice. Couldn't get any of them. He could only get two guys from Vermont who made ice cream. Right. And one guy from Michigan who ate ice cream. That was the extent of the rally. But it was amazing that day thinking about how is a Democratic Socialist going to get elected in Vermont. It seemed like an impossible task. It was so impossible that not only did he win that election, he won 8 different elections to be the only representative in the House of Representatives from the state of Vermont. And after that, he became the senator from Vermont. He holds the record in the United States Congress. No independent in the history of the United States of America has served more terms in the United States Congress. I remember asking Bernie back then, what exactly is a Democratic Socialist? And he said, well, it's very simple. It's what the Democratic Party used to be. It's what Franklin Roosevelt did. He said to me, what it means, Mike, is that everyone gets a seat at the table. And everyone gets a slice of the pie. Not just one person taking 9 slices and letting everybody else fight for the crumbs of the last slice. He said it means that we need not just democracy in our electoral politics, we need a democratic economy, an economy that you and I control. That's what it means. Focus on the democratic part of democratic socialism. I said, so it means essentially that the last shall be first, and the first shall be last. He said, yes, that's it. It started there. And here we are now. Today, look at this. Look at this. Amazing. Amazing. The powers that be are very unhappy that you're here. They're very unhappy that Bernie is back. And so they are doing everything they can to throw everything they can come up with to get people to think differently about Bernie. To get people repeating their tropes. We know what they are, right? We've heard them. They want everybody to repeat them. They got all the pundits repeating it on the news. And now they want the average American repeating it. So what do they say? Bernie's too old. Bernie's too old. Yeah? Well, here's what's too old. The Electoral College is too old. That's too old. A $7.25 minimum wage. That's too old. Women not being paid the same as men. That's too old. Thousands and thousands of dollars of student debt. What is that? A $10,000 deductible for your health care. What is that? Super delegates. What's that? Fossil fuel. What's that? That's what's too old. It's actually a gift that we have a 78-year-old American running for president of the United States. And you know why that's a gift? What has a 78-year-old seen? They've seen, Bernie has seen the things many of us have never seen. A pay raise. How about that? A 78-year-old knows what a pay raise is. A 78-year-old knows what a pension is. Pensions! Remember? Look it up. A 78-year-old knows what it looks like to defeat fascism and white supremacy. A 78-year-old knows what it looks like to have your library open every single day of the week. A 78-year-old knows what regulations are, Boeing. No, I'm glad he's 78. And we will benefit from his wisdom and his experience and his knowledge and his love for the American people. The next thing they say is, well, what about Bernie's health? What about his health? How come we talk about the health of this planet that's dying? That's the health I care about. Talk about that on cable news. What about the health of 40 million people who live in poverty? What about the health of the young black male who's shot in the back by the police? What about that health? Black Lives Matter! The only heart attack we should be talking about is the one Wall Street is going to have when Bernie Sanders is president of the United States. The next one is Bernie can't win. Bernie can't win. Bernie can't win? Well, in addition to the 8 terms in the House and the 2 in the Senate, he won 22 states in the 2016 election. 22, that's almost half states. And we will win. In 2016, let me just make this clear. In 2016, Bernie won Michigan. Bernie won Michigan. Bernie won Wisconsin. Bernie won Minnesota. In fact, Bernie won where I live. Bernie won of the 11 states that border Canada. Bernie won 10 of them. 10 of the 11. Of the five states, what was the 11? What was the one state he didn't win? Sadly, you're standing in it. We can fix that. We can fix that. Come on, New York. There it is. Of the five states to touch the Pacific Ocean, Bernie won 4 of them. Of the 6 states of New England, Bernie won 4 of those. Well, Mike, what about the South? What about the South? Bernie won West Virginia. And not just some of West Virginia. Bernie won all 55 counties in West Virginia. And where are we at today with Bernie? According to the polls here in the last month, he's been #1 in Nevada. He is a dead heat, tied or nearly tied in Iowa. The last poll in September, he was #1 in New Hampshire. That's where Bernie's at. He's raised more money than anybody else from more donors with the smallest of contributions. Bernie, when you say Bernie can't win, you are lying to the American people. Not only can he win, Bernie will win. 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 And finally, people say he can't win because, well, you know, Bernie's a socialist. That's not going to fly. But yeah, when they say that on TV, they should always say, and the American people have loved socialism for the last 70 years. The American people love their Social Security. The American people love having a free public school. The American people love Medicare and Medicaid. The American people love their fire department. These are all socialist measures. You know, what they don't really want to do is tell you the truth. They don't want to tell you the truth of what, if we structured our economic policies differently, if we structured them with democracy instead of a feudal system called capitalism. And it's not the capitalism of your great-grandparents. It's a new form of greed and selfishness and making sure that just the very few at the top benefit and everybody else struggles to live from paycheck to paycheck to paycheck, if they have a paycheck at all. What they're really afraid of is that taxes on the rich are going to go up with Bernie Sanders. And when they explain But here's my favorite, and this was so depressing during the debate last week, watching Democrats go after Medicare for all. What would Franklin Roosevelt say about these Democrats? We can't afford it. We can't afford it. We can't afford Medicare for all. Oh, really? Well, somebody explain to me, how does Canada afford it? I mean, no offense to Canada, but where are they getting all that money for all the free health care? What do Canadians sell that gets them all that money for all that free? You know, the Kit Kat bar. The Kit Kat bar is a Canadian invention. Maple syrup. Yeah, that's it. The Canadians sell so much maple syrup, everybody gets free health care. It's embarrassing that if the Canadians have figured it out, if every other industrialized country on this planet has figured it out, why are we unable to figure it out? That's because they don't want us to figure it out. They don't want it to happen. They want to say, they say to Bernie, they say to Elizabeth, oh, whoa, taxes are going to go up. Just tell people that. Tell them right now, their taxes are going to go up. That is part of the big lie. Your taxes are already up. You're right, and I'll tell you why. Here's the difference. We don't call it a tax in the United States. In Canada or France or Finland or any of a number of other countries, they not only get their free health care, they have free or nearly free daycare, they have free or nearly free college, and they pay a little bit more in taxes than we do for those things. Now, what does the average American pay who has kids and need for child care? An average of $12,000 a year. What do you pay to pay off your student loans? An average of about $4,000 a year. What do you pay for your deductibles and your co-pays, your premiums? That's another $6,000 a year on average. Too damn much is right. And I'll tell you what, add those numbers, just daycare, health care, and student loan. That's an average of $20,000 a year. And we don't call it a tax. They pay a little bit more tax in these countries. They get all those things for free or nearly free. This is a ruse that's been played on the American people. And this is what needs to be figured out and explained to people. I just noticed there was a honeybee just flying around the podium right now. And how sad it is, how rare it is that you see a honeybee these days. In closing, I love the fact that we're here in Queensbridge Park. Because behind you on that island in Manhattan is the headquarters of corporate America. On that island behind you, that is the headquarters of corporate media. On that island behind you is the headquarters of Wall Street. So much misery has been visited upon the American people from a half a mile away from us. This has to stop. They have to hear this. They have to hear you across the river. Goldman Sachs, can you hear us? Fox News, can you hear us? Trump Tower, can you hear us? It's the scene of the crime over there. We're like Washington crossing the Delaware, except today it's just the East River. But like Bernie says, this is not just about defeating Trump. This is about defeating that which gave us Trump, the rotten system that gave us Donald Trump. That's got to go. And the polls will show you that there's 4 or 5 Democrats, consistently it shows head-to-head, can beat Trump. But beating him isn't enough. Hillary beat him. It's not enough. We need to not only crush Trump at the polls, afterwards, we need to fix this rotten, corrupt economic system that gave us Donald Trump and everything else we're dealing with. I am proud today to offer my endorsement of Senator Bernie Sanders. And I want to close by just reading you one sentence. One sentence. When I heard this, I thought, well, this is really the best description of what we all want. It's really the best description of what democratic socialism is, or what the Democratic Party, we hope, will be. I'd like to just read this sentence to you, because to me it says it all. And I'm inspired by Bernie's whole idea that this is not about, as he says, me. It's about us. This is the sentence that best describes this. Listen to these words. We, the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty. We do ordain this Constitution of the United States of America. On January 20th, 2021, I want to see Bernie Sanders swear that he will defend this Constitution from all enemies, domestic and foreign, especially domestic. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. And now, thank you. We will win. 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 And now it is my honor to introduce to you one of the original, as Trump put it, nasty women, the brave and courageous and necessary Mayor of San Juan, Puerto Rico, Mayor Carmen Cruz. Let's hear it for her.
Hello, New York! You know, September 20th, one of those days where your life changes forever. 2 hurricanes, not one, had hit Puerto Rico. Times were hard. There was no food, no electricity, no water, no medicine. Help was not getting there. We were dying, and President Trump was killing us with his bureaucracy and his inefficiency. You know, he said he couldn't get help to Puerto Rico because we are an island surrounded by water, lots and lots of water, ocean water. That is a quote from the President of the United States. Now, in the midst of all that darkness, one man came down to visit me. And I have to tell you, I was not a Bernie supporter in 2016. I was not. But I started feeling the burn when he came down to the city of San Juan, Puerto Rico. No cameras, no show. Just a man with a big heart, with a lot of passion and a lot of compassion. And he won me over. He won me over because Bernie is consistent, he is courageous, and he is committed to changing the lives of each and every one of us. Now, I know we will win. We will win. But more, come on and say it. Come on. Come on. Come on. Now, the important thing is why we have to win. We have to win, and this is why you and I stand with Bernie. Because somewhere in New York, in Hawaii, in Puerto Rico, there is a man or a woman that cannot afford to buy insulin and that has to decide whether to live or die in order to buy the medicine or pay the groceries. That is why we stand with Bernie. Because you see, he thinks that Medicare for all is the answer to ending corporate greed that allows those that have to get the medication they need, but those that don't have to die. We must win. Say it with me. We must win. Because we must win. We must win. We must win because Bernie understands that power is only useful when it pulls all us together. And if that is one of us is left behind, whether it is a man, a woman, a transgender, a member of the LGBT community, our Muslims brothers and sisters, our Jewish brothers and sisters, we are all in this together. That's why we must win. I don't hear this side of the crowd. Come on, everybody stand up, come on. Come on. Come on, New York. We must win. We must win because of the fundamental universal values that people should be able to go to college and afford to have a life after college. We must win because of a fundamental value that says that the power is in the streets and that government is to serve the people, not to serve just the 1%. Say it with me, we must win. We must win. Because there is too much at stake. We must win. We must win. Too much at stake in the next election. It is about whether we believe that people are equal. It is about what we believe that those people living in the largest housing project in the United States have every right to not have a future, but have a present of decency and dignity. dignity. We must win. But we also must win. Porque es importante. Porque es importante que sepamos que sí se puede. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. No, Mexicans are not criminals and rapists. No, Puerto Ricans are not corrupt. No, transgender people have a right to serve in the military. Trans rights are human rights. Women's rights are human rights. Afro-American rights are everybody's rights. We are all one and together in a universal agenda that really, really makes us be uncompromising. I love it whenever Bernie says this one thing. And if you can detect it, say it with me. Let me be absolutely. You've heard him say that, right? Say it with me. Let me be. Yes, we will stand against those that make $100 million an hour and pay their workers starving wages. Yes, we will stand against those that want to take away the woman's right to choose. And yes, we will stand against the terrible crime of separating families on the southern part of the border of the United States. We must win to end family separations. We must win to ensure that everyone, anywhere, it doesn't matter what the color of their skin are, the religion that they profess, it doesn't matter. And we must win in order to take on climate change. Look, I can't hear you. Trump can't hear you. I'm just going to take a few more minutes of your time. Look, I don't know. I'm no climate change expert. I am a climate change survivor. I don't know how warm the ocean is going to get or how hot the tides are going to go. Say it louder. Say it louder. Say it louder. I do know this one thing. Climate change is real. Climate change kills. 3,000 Puerto Ricans did not open their eyes this morning because of a president that was too concerned about looking good rather than doing good. And yes, we are not going to spend too much time talking about a racist, demagogue, xenophobic, racist, paper-throwing president. You know what? You know what? Let's vote him out. 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 So the time is now. The time is now to be uncompromising. The time is now to be relentless. The time is now to be fearless. The time is now to be full. The time is now to stand with Bernie Sanders. And look, we gotta respect every other candidate. But we know that there is one name and one name only that can get the job done, and that is Bernie. Bernie! 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 I can't hear you! Una última cosa. Es importante que todos y todas nos unamos en una sola voz. Let's be united in one voice. One progressive voice that will cross across generations, that will not divide us, but unite us, that will make sure that on that day in January, when Bernie Sanders walks into 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, it is the real values, the real humanity, the real compassion, and the unrelentless no middle ground, no baby steps, but bold moves that will move this country forward. So are you with Bernie? Let me hear it one last time. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Sí se puede.
Sí se puede.
Yes, we can.
Sí se puede.
Sí se puede. Now let's win it to all. Let's do everything we can. Let's not leave anyone untouched or unturned. Let's just move forward in a path of a progressive agenda that will make sure that we all understand that we are equals, that no life is worth more than another, que todos somos iguales. Todos somos iguales. So we will win and we must win. We will win. We must win. We will win.
We must.
I can't hear you.
We must.
Louder.
We must.
Thank you, New York.
And now, please welcome to the stage National Co-Chair, Senator Nina Turner.
Queens! Where you at, baby? Where you at? Now, y'all don't mind if I pull my notes from the Southern Ladies Bank and Trust, do you? Oh my God, can I just say that? Queens, where you at? Now, I know we feeling the burn, but we need this country to feel Queens, baby. Now, Queens, I am proud to have you put these hands together for your own New York squad. Through these leaders, you have dealt with Amazon. You've dealt with the nationwide airport protests after Trump's Muslim ban. You pushed the needle for progressive district attorneys like Tiffany Kevon. Hello, somebody. You passed the $15 an hour minimum wage and guaranteed sick days for all workers. So I need you to put it together for these amazing sisters and brothers who are in the elected ministry, we have the youngest woman to serve in the history of NY State Senate, Democratic Socialist, Senator Julia Salazar. Hello, somebody. We have the champion of this year's historic victory for farm workers, the relentless fighter for labor, Queen's own Senator Jessica Ramos. Queen's original, the powerful and bold senator who like his name twin, is leading the fight for a public bank and economic justice, Senator James Sanders. This next champion empowered marginalized community by defeating the city's oppressive cabaret law, because this revolution has justice and dancing, baby. Let's give it up for Councilman Raphael Espinal. The champion of the New York State Dream Act and Boogie Down Bronx, Senator Louis Sepulveda. Holding it down all the way up from upstate New York, Mr. Tax Wall Street to fix Main Street, Assemblyman Philip Stack. Your own homegrown Queen's wonderful, fighting on behalf of dreamers, seniors, and an economy that works for all New Yorkers, Assembly Member Ron Kim. And last but certainly not least, baby, the man who took a stand against corporate greed and helped lay the smackdown on Jeff Bezos. And who in his spare time pushed the most progressive legislative session in New York State history, Senate Deputy Majority Leader Mike Gianneris. Hello, somebody. This is the New York Squad. Now listen, sisters and brothers. All right, the New York Squad. Okay, now, sisters and brothers, I need y'all to do something. We're about to do an us-see. We know how Senator Bernard Sanders always talks about this movement, this presidential run not being about me, but it is about us. So all of the folks in the elected ministry on this stage right now, and yes, I called it a ministry because you ought to give a shit about the people you serve. Come on, somebody. Come on, somebody. I did say that. But we're going to turn around and we want to do an us-see. So are we ready for that? Come on, y'all. Let's do this. All right, stay right here.
I'll do it this way.
Fist up! Y'all be ready. Hands up, hands up! Come on. All right, ready? Yeah. 3, 2, 1.
I gotta get it in.
Got it? All right, thank you.
No one fell. That's
Well
what I
done.
got.
Thank you so much. Well done.
All right, Queens. Here we go. New York Squad, baby. Now, can I just say something, Queens? On my way in, and I was on the train, I was listening to another New Yorker, and I should have brought my phone up so I could play, so you could hear him for himself. When I was thinking about Senator Bernard Sanders and all that he has been through, and the fact that his first major rally with the people is in Queens. I was thinking about a brother by the name of LL Cool J. Can I just quote some of these words? Now, don't y'all hold it against me. But the song, don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. Come on now. They talking about Senator Sanders is back, baby. He been here. Don't call this a regular jam. I'm going to rock this land, this world, and take it by storm. That's Senator Bernard Sanders. Brother LL also saying, I'm just getting warm. How many of you feel the burn, baby? Now here's the most important part. I'm going to knock you out. Mama said knock you out. Senator Bernie Sanders is going to knock out the special interests in D.C. He going to knock out that multi-billionaire class that does not believe that the workaday people of this country deserve a good life. So not only does Mama say knock them out, the people say knock them out. Come on, Queens. Now, don't y'all hold that against me now. I tried. Knock them out. So now, my foundation comes from Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. And she said these words. She was a congresswoman from Texas. She said, what the people want is very simple. They want an America as good as its promise. That's it, and that's all. So we're looking for an America where folks don't die because they got to ration out their insulin. We are looking for an America where hospitals are not closing. Hello, Hahnemann in Philadelphia. And hospitals are closing all over this country, particularly in rural areas. What the people want is very simple. We want clean water, clean air, and clean food. That's it. And that's all. We also want, finally, to have a justice system that doesn't gun down black folks in their houses. Can we get some of that? Can we get some of that? Don't even get me started on that. We at a place in this country you can't breathe while black, sleep while black, do nothing while black. We gonna clean up this criminal injustice system. What the people want is very simple. We need to have some truth and reconciliation about the ravages of racism in the United States of America. That's it, and that's all. What the people want is very simple. We want a healthcare system that is not commodified. That's it, and that's all. What the people want is very simple. We must take care of Mother Earth right now. That's it, and that's all. And when I say, Queens, that there's nobody quite like Senator Bernard Sanders, I mean that. We got some folks in mainstream and the neoliberal side who really can't understand the difference. But I'm gonna break this down for you. There are many copies. There are people who didn't have the same guts and the same courage as Senator Bernie Sanders to run in 2016. There are some people who sat on the sideline when it was hard. There was only one person who stood up to the establishment, and his name is Bernard Sanders. So, oh yeah, we got a lot of copies. There's only one candidate candidate in 2016 who told the multi-millionaires and billionaires in this country, keep your money, I'll raise my money with the people. There's only one candidate who's been marching with the working class people, not because he's running for president, but because it's right. Hello, Marriott workers. Hello, Amazon workers. Hello, Verizon workers. Hello, teachers. Come on, somebody. And I don't know about you, but I hail from a tradition that says that you will know the tree by the fruit that it bears, and Senator Bernie Sanders bears good fruit. So there are many copies. People want to talk about a framework. People who stand up in other folks' living rooms and say to them, multi-millionaires and billionaires, and nothing will fundamentally change for you. Well, Queens, I got a message. If nothing fundamentally changes for multi-millionaires and billionaires, then nothing fundamentally changes for you and you and you and you. We finally have somebody in our lifetime who will be unflinching, that his only special interests are sisters and brothers in Queens. His only special interests are sisters and brothers in Denmark, South Carolina. His only special interests, hello, Flint, Michigan, his only special interests are the people of this great nation. So, yeah, there are many copies, but there is only one original. Take the copy, baby, when you can have the original. He didn't vote to give President Trump more money for wars. Hello, somebody. He voted against these rotten trade deals that steal wealth from our communities. There is only one Senator Bernard Sanders, so let the record reflect that there is only one, just in case folks don't understand that being similar is not being the same. Come on, somebody. It's only one. It's only one. There's only one. It's only one. It's only one. It's only one. And it just boggles my mind how in a nation where we claim to want progress, that folks think ageism is just all right. You know, it burned my behind on that debate stage when Senator Sanders was the only one to get that question. Let me tell you something. As somebody who lost her mother at the young age, my mama was 42 years old when she left this plane of existence. Life happens to us all. And so if you are going to ask all the presidential candidates about their health, don't call out our senator. Come on, somebody. Because one thing we all have in common, if the Lord blesses us to live long enough, we might just ought to run for president at the age of 78. Come on. So memo to the mainstream media, memo to the haters, hashtag Bernie is back. But as Mayor Cruz said, he never went anywhere. We just pushed pause for a minute. So I want to close with these words, Queens. And this is awesome. This is important. I know all the family is here and we got important people here and we doing the damn thing. But I'm going to tell you something. It's not just important that the family gets together today. We got to hit them streets. This battle will be won in the streets. And Queen, I don't know, I heard about Queens. Y'all know how to do battle in the streets. We will elect the most progressive candidate in our lifetime, one who will not sell us out or sell us down the road, one who doesn't say one thing in the primary and do something else in the general. Come on, somebody. We're going to elect somebody who understands that there are disparities within the disparity, and that if you are black, if you are brown, if you are indigenous, and if you are poor, this system is rigged and it is rotten to the core, and we're going to unrig it. That's it. And that's all. So we need you to sign up your friends, sign up for helping this campaign, and we are going to make history when Senator Bernard Sanders is sworn into office. So let me close with this. I need you guys to do something for me, and I ask this all over this country, because this is real. I love you too, baby. This is love. This is love. And I do want to say that I am mad as hell, and I know I'm a black woman, last time I checked. And I know sometimes people talk about the angry black woman, but I'm going to tell you something. If you ain't mad as a mofo about what's going on here, something is wrong with you. Mad with a purpose. So as an angry black woman, we taking applications. Y'all can be mad as hell with us. Come on, somebody. Come on, somebody. Mad about a system that allows CEOs to make money hand over fist while other folks got to grovel for a living. Mad at the fact that we don't have leaders who won't equivocate for standing up for the people. Mad that folks are living out on the streets. Mad that people are too afraid to go see a doctor because they can't afford it. Mad because our babies need to be educated and our teachers need to be paid. But we're going to get glad because we're going to use this energy and this synergy that we have to help Senator Bernard Sanders make it to the White House. And baby, when we get to the White House, y'all ready for that? So I need you to do something for me. Raise one hand for yourself and another hand for somebody else. Dr. Maya Angelou once said that we got to have the courage to stand up for ourselves and then the courage to stand up for somebody else. And with these hands, we will have Medicare for all. With these hands, we will cancel student debt. With these hands, we will cancel medical debt. With these hands, we will make an investment on Main Street and tell Wall Street to go straight to hell. With these hands, we will make sure that every baby in this country can aspire to live a good life. With these hands, ladies, we want our whole damn dollar. With these hands, we will combat client chaos. And with these hands, we will do something about income and wealth inequality. And with these hands, baby, we will elect Senator Bernard Sanders, the next president of the United States of America. With these hands.
Now, brothers and sisters, please welcome to the stage Queens-born progressive activist and former candidate for Queens County District Attorney, Tiffany Kevon.
Hey, y'all. Thank you. Some of you might know me. My name is Tiffany Kevon. And I am a 32-year-old queer, Latina, public defender and activist.
And I have spent my entire adult life fighting to bring real justice to working people. And this year, I came pretty close to becoming the next district attorney in Queens. But you know, it is completely surreal for me to be here with y'all. My grandparents came here from Puerto Rico. And my parents grew up in public housing, in the Woodside houses, not too far from the housing units that are right across the street. They grew up with mold, chipping paint, asbestos, crumbling ceilings, name a serious health risk, and my parents had to live with it. And early on, sure, I'm short, y'all. And early on, our family learned that government didn't really care about us. Our schools were overcrowded, our apartments and homes were crumbling, and our neighborhoods were over-policed and resource-starved. So my dad became an elevator mechanic, and my mom looked after other people's kids. And they saved up to send me to a Catholic high school. And for me, that long bus ride into a different neighborhood might as well have been to a different planet. I saw at that school that when wealthy white communities needed help, they got access to resources. But when we needed help, our government sent cops. So believe me when I tell you that I never thought that someone like me could run for office, let alone almost become the district attorney of Queens. And I grew up, honestly, with a far more limited sense of what's possible. And then came Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And I'm sure that every one of you here remembers the first time you saw Alexandria, this 28-year-old bartender ferociously knocking her way through her district while the political machine laughed and mocked her. And I'm sure that you remember the first time you heard Alexandria speak. This young Latina woman who was finally telling the truth about our broken political system and what we needed to do to fix it. Who was railing against the Democratic establishment. And I remember feeling hope and also incredibly energized. And it became a part of my story. I decided to run for office because I saw that no one else in the DA's race would fight for real justice for working people. To decriminalize poverty, mental health and substance use disorder, to decriminalize sex work, and to treat violence as a public health issue. But I only believed that it was possible in the first place because Alexandria showed that a working woman in this country could run for office and win. By championing the real issues affecting our neighbors. She showed me that you don't need Wall Street bankers and real estate developers writing $5,000 checks to run for office. You don't need the political machine. You don't need the Democratic establishment. You just need the people. And so for me, that's what Alexandria really represents. She's a congresswoman and a moral leader and a clear voice for action on workers' rights, Medicare for all, and climate change. But most of all, she is a symbol for a different kind of political system. A political system led by multiracial, working-class people fighting to make government work for all of us. Not just the white, wealthy, well-connected few. A system led and powered by public defenders and bartenders and public school teachers. And librarians. And you know, when I was running for DA, I had to talk to a lot of different elected officials and Democratic organizations to ask for their support in our campaign. And they'd ask me, how much money do you have? Who else was endorsing? Whether I'd run before? And I remember vividly the first time I got on the phone with Alexandria, because it was so wildly different. She didn't care about how much I raised or what electeds had endorsed me. She just wanted to know if my neighbors were behind me. How many volunteers we had brought in? Was there real grassroots enthusiasm behind our message? Were we doing the work to build local coalitions? And how low were our contributions? Or were we just cashing checks from rich folks? And by the way, no big deal, but the answer is that final campaign weekend, that final weekend alone, we had 1,400 volunteers knock over 100,000 doors. Because when you run a campaign for working people, the working people of Queens show up. But my point is, the questions Alexandria asked focused on volunteers and coalition building, not checks and endorsements. This is who Alexandria is. Behind closed doors, when all of the cameras are off, her North Star is still pointed in the direction of the people. And let's be real, that's who Senator Bernie Sanders is too. He showed Alexandria that you don't have to sacrifice your values, your beliefs, you don't have to appease the establishment, and you can build a movement of working people. And it's why she's made choices other elected officials just wouldn't. In her first week on the job in Congress, she joined a sit-in at Nancy Pelosi's office. In the months since, she's challenged conventional wisdom in D.C. every single day. Every chance she's gotten, She's used her platform in service of the movement, backing candidates like me across the country who are fighting to build a government powered by the people too. Now, I came up short in my race this year. But I am genuinely so hopeful about our future. So to every young person, woman, queer person, Black or brown person thinking about running who doesn't have the money or support or know where to start, not only should you run, but we need you to. We only win when working people lead this movement, people like all of you. So it is my honor and my privilege to introduce my homegirl, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Attention last week. Damn. Thank you, New York City. Thank you, Queens. Thank you, Queensbridge. Let's acknowledge the ground that we are on, which is the point of zero. This is the ground zero for the fight for public housing and fully funded, dignified housing in the United States of America. Not only is this about public housing, this is a ground for environmental justice, because just beyond this park is a power plant that spills and spews off toxins to the poor, that shows exactly the fight of environmental justice that we are up against. But that's okay, because with the Green New Deal, we are going to center frontline communities, center working class communities, center communities of color, indigenous wisdom to transform our future, take it back, and preserve our planet. Last year, everyone's out, Green New Deal. Last February, I would tell everyone to turn around, but there's a lot in our way. But last February, I was working as a waitress in downtown Manhattan at a taqueria. I worked shoulder to shoulder with undocumented workers who often worked harder and hardest for the least amount of money. I was on my feet working 12-hour days with no structured breaks.
I didn't have health care. I wasn't being paid a living wage. And I didn't think that I deserved any of those things. Because that is the script that we tell working people here and all over this country. That your inherent worth and value as a human being is dependent on an income that another person decided to underpay us. But what we're here to do is to turn around that very basic logic. It wasn't until I heard of a man by the name of Bernie Sanders that I began to question and assert and recognize my inherent value as a human being that deserves health care, housing, education, and a living wage. Now, I was born across this river in the Boogie Down. And like many first, second, and third generation Americans, I grew up between two worlds in multiple contexts. My mom was born in Puerto Rico. My dad was born in the South Bronx while the Bronx was burning. And again, let's listen to our history. My dad was born when the Bronx was burning, when landlords began to turn into arsonists because the insurance payouts were more valuable than the families that lived inside those buildings. Now, that was the backdrop by which my parents started their lives. And the backdrop upon which I started mine was in a one-bedroom apartment in Parkchester in the Bronx. They worked hard. We had a mattress on the floor and a crib in the closet, and that's how we started our American dream. Now, it was shortly after that my mom and my dad looked at the quality of education in the Bronx, and they looked at 50% dropout rates. They looked at the inequity of education, the inequity of education funding, the fact that teachers weren't paid, the fact that kids weren't given their tools to succeed, and that frankly, it not only had to do with their income, but it had to do with their melanin too. And so and my family made a really hard decision. And my whole family chipped in to buy a small house about 40 minutes north of here. And that's when I got my first taste of a country who allows their kids' destiny to be determined by the zip code that they are born in. And so much of my life was shuttled between these two worlds. And not just the two worlds between the Bronx and Westchester County, but the continental U.S., New York State, and the realities of Puerto Rico, where my family is too. And we saw the distinctions between these two worlds. I grew up where income inequality was an ingrained fact of life of my childhood. And it took everything in us to try to give that next generation a chance. When I was 18, my dad died of cancer. And all of the work that we did in a generation like that was wiped out. And I know that that story isn't just mine. It's all of our story. We are all always, it feels like just one accident away from everything falling apart. And we have to change the fundamental logic of a system and a politics that puts corporate profit ahead of all human and planetary costs. But when you rewind on that story, when I was a baby, my family relied on Planned Parenthood for prenatal care. Then, Bernie Sanders fought for me. When I was growing up and education was being gutted for kids in the quote-unquote wrong zip code, Bernie Sanders fought for us. When I was a child that relied on CHIP so that I could see a doctor, Bernie Sanders fought for a single-payer health care system. When the federal government decided to discriminate and abandon my queer family and friends, Bernie Sanders was putting his career on the line for us. When I was a waitress and when it was time for me to graduate college with student debt, Bernie Sanders was one of the only ones that said no person should be graduating with life-crushing debt at the start of their lives. Bernie Sanders did not do these things because they were popular. And that's what we need to remember. He did this, and he fought for these aims and these ends when they came at the highest political cost in America. No one wanted to question this system. And in 2016, he fundamentally changed politics in America. We right now have one of the best Democratic presidential primary fields in a generation. And much of that is thanks to the work that Bernie Sanders has done in his entire life. I'm in the United States Congress now. And that's a long, long way from being a sexually harassed waitress in downtown Manhattan 1 year ago. However, in this new historic freshman congressional class, an overwhelming amount of them now reject corporate PAC money. That's thanks to Bernie. An enormous amount of the House of Representatives endorse Medicare for all. That's thanks to Bernie. More people now than ever recognize the climate crisis as an existential threat, but also our greatest economic opportunity. And that's thanks not just to the climate work of Bernie Sanders, but the climate activists that are part of mass movement politics in the United States. Now that I'm on that other side, I can tell you the halls of Congress are no joke. It is no joke to stand up to corporate power and established interests. It is no joke. It's not just about standing up and saying these things, but behind closed doors, your arm is twisted, the vice pressure of political pressure gets put on you, and every trick in the book, psychological and otherwise, is used to get us to abandon the working class. And it has been in that experience over the last 9 months that I have grown to appreciate the enormous, consistent, and nonstop advocacy of Senator Bernie Sanders. Now, one thing I'll say is that it's not just what we're fighting for, but it's how we're going to do it. And how we're going to do it is with a mass mobilization of working class people at the ballot box. That's the only way that we are going to win this thing. Because one of our top priorities is not just defeating Donald Trump, but defeating the systems of which he is a symptom. That means that what we need to do in this country is organize a fundamentally positive and welcoming movement. One that is mindful, not only mindful of the ugly histories that created our present inequalities, the racism of housing segregation, the classism of the Hyde Amendment that tells us that low-income women shouldn't have access to health care. But we also recognize the imperialist and colonial histories that contribute to our endless wars and our immigration crisis. Not only do we need to recognize that NYCHA being underfunded by over $30 billion is not an accident, it is an outcome. It's not an accident, it is an outcome of a system that devalues the poor, that devalues working people, and that prioritizes buildings like those over buildings like these. And so, not only must we recognize what is broken, and that has resulted in why we're here. But we need to recognize the principles that will drive us forward. Because the logic that got us into this mess is not gonna get us out. So we need to build a mass movement in America centered on the working class, the poor, the middle class, one that is actively anti-racist, that is rooted in principles of universality. Everybody has a right to health care. Everybody has a right to an education. One that is rooted in principles of cooperation, that is participatory, that combats not only racism, but misogyny, anti-queer discrimination. We have to actively center those principles to drive us forward, because the future and our future is in public systems, and it's publicly owned systems, because we need to take power over our lives again. I don't know about you, but I don't want Mark Zuckerberg making decisions over my life. I don't know about you, but the Waltons have already been making decisions over our lives, and what we got was nothing. We need a United States that really, truly, and authentically is operated, owned, and decided by working and all people in the United States of America. That is what It is multiracial, multi-gendered, multi-generational, and multi-geographic. We have to come together, not ignoring our differences, but listening to them, prioritizing them, understanding injustice, understanding that we operate in a context where slavery evolved into Jim Crow, evolved into a mass incarceration, evolved into the realities we have today. And so with that, I'm proud to say that the only reason that I had any hope in launching a long-shot campaign for Congress is because Bernie Sanders proved that you can run a grassroots campaign and win in an America where we almost thought it was impossible. And with that, I'd like to introduce the man, the ally. I call him Theo Bernie. Maybe to my goddaughter, he's Willow. Maybe to some others, he's brother. But he's my Theo Bernie Sanders.
Let me Thank you. Let me begin by making an apology. We got a permit for 20,000 people, and we had to close the doors. So to all of those who couldn't get in, thanks so much for being here, and thank all of you for being here today. When I look at this huge crowd, brothers and sisters, I have no doubt that the political revolution is going to sweep this country. Sweep Donald Trump out of office. And bring the change that this country has long needed. Thank you all for being here. What our campaign is about is not just defeating the most dangerous president in the history of this country. It is about transforming this country. It is about creating an economy and a government that works for all of us, not just the 1%. For 45 years, there has been a class war waged against the working families of this country by the billionaire class and the corporate elite. Well, we got some bad news for them. Things are going to change, and we're going to have a government of working people, not the 1%. Let me begin by thanking our great musicians, Anik Khan and Max, for their great music. Thank you, guys. Let me thank my wife, Jane, whose father was a cab driver from Brooklyn and who is going to make an outstanding First Lady for our country. And let me thank my 4 kids and 7 grandchildren. This is a family you will be proud of. Let me thank Michael Moore for his support for so many years. Michael's father worked on an assembly line at General Motors in Flint, Michigan. Michael knows what side he is on. Let me thank the mayor of San Juan, Puerto Rico, Carmen Yulín Cruz, who has stood up to Trump in her fight for justice for the people of Puerto Rico. And I want to thank Yulín for being one of the co-chairs of our campaign. And let me thank Senator Nina Turner. Nina grew up in a low-income family in Cleveland, and at the age of 14, started working part-time jobs in order to support her family. Nina knows which side she is on. And let me thank Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It is, that's right. It is, I've been around politics a few years. And it is hard to believe the degree to which in less than 1 year, this woman, the youngest woman ever elected to Congress, it is hard to believe the degree to which she has transformed politics in America. Coming from a struggling family from Puerto Rico, she has been a fierce defender of the working class of our country. She has taken on the greed of Wall Street with legislation to put a cap on interest rates. She has been a leader in the fight against gentrification, for rent control, for affordable housing, and all within 1 year. She has electrified this country when she introduced the concept of the Green New Deal. Alexandria has become an inspiration to millions of young people, not just here in New York, but across this country, who now understand the importance of political participation and standing up for justice. Andrea, thank you so much. And I am so delighted that Alexandria is part of our campaign, and I look forward to traveling with her all over this country. Let me also, on a personal note, take this opportunity to thank the many people across this nation who, in my time of illness, sent me and my family their prayers and well wishes and their love. It has meant the world to Jane and me, and I thank all of you so very much. And along with the great medical care that I received, I am happy to report to you that I am more than ready than ever to carry on with you the epic struggle that we face today. I am more than ready to assume the office of President of the United States. I am more than ready to take on the greed and corruption of the corporate elite and their apologists. I am more ready than ever to help create a government based on the principles of justice, economic justice, racial justice, social justice, and environmental justice. To put it bluntly, I am back. There is no question that I and my family have faced adversity over these last couple of weeks. But the untold story is that people everywhere in this country, in the wealthiest nation in the history of the world, are facing their own adversities. Tonight in America, over 500,000 people will find themselves homeless. And right here in New York City, over 130,000 people including 45,000 children, slept in homeless shelters last year alone. Today in America, half of our population, 50% of our people, the working class of this country, is living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to pay their rents, their mortgages, their light bill, or fix their car. Dealing with the incredible stress of struggling to just stay alive and feed their families. That is adversity. Today in America, 87 million of our people are uninsured or underinsured, unable to go to the doctor when they get sick, because the United States maintains the most dysfunctional and cruel healthcare system in the world. That is adversity. Today in America, in a country that once led the world in terms of the quality of our educational system, millions of working class families are desperately searching for affordable child care. Hundreds of thousands of bright young people are unable to fulfill their dreams because their families cannot afford the outrageous cost of higher education, and tens of millions struggle with the oppressive burden of student debt. Today in America, millions of senior citizens are unable to afford the prescription drugs they desperately need because our government has allowed the crooks in the pharmaceutical industry to engage in price fixing and political bribery, while at the same time Trump and the Republicans are desirous of cutting Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security for our seniors. But in the midst, as all of you know, of all of this suffering, there is another reality which is taking place in this country. And that is that while the working families of America have seen virtually no increase in their inflation accounted for income over the last 45 years, the top 1% now have more income and wealth than they have ever had before in the history of this country. And brothers and sisters, Congress may not talk about it, the media may not talk about it, but not only will we talk about income and wealth inequality, we are going to do something about it. Today, damn right we're going to win. And we are going to win because the American people want fundamental changes in our national priorities. They are tired of the 1% getting richer while they are struggling to put food on the table. That's why we're going to win. Today, unbelievably, while we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth, 25 hedge fund managers make twice as much money as all of the kindergarten teachers in America. We are going to honor our teachers, not the hedge fund managers, and that is going to change under our administration. Today, the 3 wealthiest Americans own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. And the top 1% have seen their wealth increase by $21 trillion over the last 30 years. And today we say to Wall Street and the billionaire class, you ain't gonna get it all anymore. Today, justice, long overdue, is coming to the United States of America. But it's not just wealth, it's income. Today, while so many people in New York State and in Vermont and all across this country are working 2 or 3 jobs to put food on the table, 49% of all new income goes to the top 1%. And when we talk about justice and immorality, please remember that unbelievably, the richest people in our country live 15 years longer than the poorest people. In other words, poverty is a death sentence, and we are going to end that death sentence. It is not a radical idea to say that all of our people, regardless of their income, have the right to live long and happy lives. And I must also say that in the midst of all of this massive wealth and income inequality, there is also a racial disparity within the overall disparity. Today, the average white family owns more than 10 times the wealth of the average black family. Black women are 3 times more likely to die from a pregnancy than white women. And the infant mortality rate in black communities is more than double what it is in white communities. Meanwhile, as a result of a broken and racist criminal justice system, black men are sentenced to 19% more jail time for committing the exact same crime as white men. And African Americans are jailed at more than 5 times the rate of whites. Now, that is where we are today. That's where we are. A nation in which a few miles away from here, people on Wall Street make unbelievable amounts of money and live in incredible and ostentatious luxury, while right here, across the street from us, people are struggling day after day just to survive. But it is not just here in New York City. It is also in West Virginia and Kentucky and Alabama and Mississippi and other states where people continue to work for starvation wages and are worried to death about the future their children face. And that is why we say today that in America, anyone who works 40 hours a week will not live in poverty. We're going to raise that minimum wage to a living wage, at least $15 an hour. And we're going to make sure that every worker in America has the right to join a union. It is millions of workers in this country want to join unions, and today their employers in illegal ways are making that impossible, and that is why our labor law opens the door. And in our first 4 years, we're going to double the number of workers in this country who belong to unions. Now, brothers and sisters, it is clear to me, and what our campaign is all about, is that the enormous problems facing our country cannot be solved by the same old approach to politics. The time is now to tell the corporate elite of this country that enough is enough, and we will no longer accept their greed and their corruption and their attacks against the working families of America. Brothers and sisters, we need a new vision for America. And that is what this campaign is all about. And in terms of political struggle, in terms of how we bring about the transformative changes that we desperately need, I am reminded of a statement made by Nelson Mandela, one of the great leaders in modern history. And this is what Mandela said. He said, and I quote, "It always seems impossible until it is done." Do you all understand what that means? It always seems impossible until it is done. In other words, what the establishment, whether it is the economic establishment, whether it's the political establishment, or whether it's the media establishment, what they want us to believe is that real and fundamental change can never occur. They want us to believe that our vision for the future is unrealistic, that it is a pipe dream, that it is simply utopian thinking. They want us to believe that the only reality that we can live under is the status quo. That real change is impossible. And by the way, it's not just Republicans who give us that line. That is exactly what I heard on the stage of the Democratic debate in Ohio a few nights ago. So let me respectfully disagree. Let me respectfully disagree with those who believe that real change is not possible. And let me tell you exactly the kind of America we are going to fight for when we are in the White House. And for a start, unlike Donald Trump, we are not going to divide the American people up based on the color of our skin, our gender, where we were born, our sexual orientation, or our religion. In fact, we are going to do exactly the opposite. We're going to bring our people together. We're going to bring our people together, black and white and Latino, Asian American and Native American. We're going to bring our people together, whether they are gay or straight, male or female, young or old. And together, we're going to fight every vestige of racism, sexism, homophobia, xenophobia, and religious bigotry that exists. Our administration is the administration that will take America forward in ending all forms of discrimination. But we are also, as we bring our people together, going to push through an agenda that addresses the pain of the working families of this country. Because we believe that economic rights are human rights. We believe that education is a human right which enriches us all and enables us to get the good-paying jobs we need in a competitive global economy. And that is why we will implement policy that provides for universal, affordable child care. Every working family has the right to know that their kids are in high-quality child care and are getting the emotional and intellectual nourishment. And we're going to rebuild public education in this country that gives our teachers the respect and the compensation that they deserve. And I want to thank teachers all over this country that have literally taken money out of their own pockets in order to buy the school supplies their kids need. We believe in education. We believe in our teachers. And under our administration, we're going to have the best public education system in the world. And because we believe in equality, we are going to make our public colleges and universities tuition-free. We're going to adequately fund our HBCUs. And by the way, we're going to cancel all student debt in America. Yes, if the Congress If Congress 11 years ago, against my vote, could bail out the crooks on Wall Street and provide them with trillions of dollars of zero-interest loans, if Donald Trump and his Republican friends could give over $1 trillion in tax breaks to large profitable corporations and the 1%, if we can spend $750 billion a year on the military, you know what? We can cancel all student debt in America. With a modest tax on Wall Street speculation. Hey, Wall Street, can you hear us now? And when we talk about workers' rights, it is my belief that every American who wants a job should be able to find a job through a federal jobs guarantee program, which pays workers good wages and provides union representation. There is an enormous amount of work to be done in our country, and we need skilled workers to do those jobs. Brothers and sisters, this is the United States of America. We can create up to 15 million good-paying jobs rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. Roads and bridges, airports, water systems. It is not a radical idea to say that in America, when you turn on the tap in your faucet, you have a right to drink clean water. We can create millions more jobs as we expand child care, education, health care, and services for senior citizens. And let me say a word about an issue that I've been working on for decades. And that is my belief, and I know it is your belief, that health care is a human right, not a privilege. Together, we are going to end the international embarrassment of the United States of America being the only major country on earth that does not guarantee health care to all of their people. Brothers and sisters, we will end the absurdity of America spending twice as much per capita on health care as the people of almost every major country on earth, while at the same time, 87 million people are underinsured or underinsured. 30,000 Americans die each year because they don't get to a doctor on time, and 500,000 go bankrupt because they cannot afford to pay their medical bills. We will take on the greed of the insurance companies and the drug companies and pass a Medicare for all single-payer program. And now let me I'll give a special thanks to Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for helping our country recognize that climate change is an existential threat to our planet and that we must implement a program consistent with the goals of the Green New Deal. The climate change proposal that I have introduced during this campaign is the most comprehensive climate change plan ever introduced by any candidate running for federal office. In other words, we are listening to the scientists. Our legislation will hold the fossil fuel industry accountable. It will create up to 20 million new jobs as we transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. It will give us the tools that we need to help lead the world in combating climate change and save this planet for our children and future generations. Now, right across the street from where we are at this moment is New York City's largest fossil fuel power plant. And let us be clear, it is no secret that that plant is located right next to the city's largest public housing development. Together, we will pass a Green New Deal that will end the environmental racism we see right here in Queens and in similar communities all across this country. Together, not only will we clean up our environment, but we will finally put an end to environmental racism. And in the richest country in the history of the world, Alexandria, you and I believe that every American should have a fundamental right to a safe, decent, and affordable home. It is absolutely unacceptable and un-American that veterans and families with young children are sleeping out on the streets of New York City and all across this country. It is unacceptable that 18 million families in America are paying over half of their limited incomes on housing, and it is unacceptable that wealthy real estate developers in New York and across this country are gentrifying neighborhoods. And it is absolutely unacceptable that the largest public housing development in North America, right across the street from us, lacks decent heat and hot water and is in urgent need of repair. The affordable housing program that we will implement will establish the funds necessary to build nearly 10 million new apartments and homes throughout this country. Our program will eliminate homelessness in America. It will end the gentrification taking place in cities like New York, Seattle, San Francisco, and all over America. And our legislation will create a national rent control standard. Landlords all across America will no longer be able to rip off their tenants and throw them out of their homes. And our proposal will provide $20 billion to New York City's Public Housing Authority to repair and modernize its public housing stock, to make all public housing accessible, and to provide access to high-speed broadband for all of its residents. Let me say a word about an issue that I know is on the minds of all of us, and that is that we are going to end, once and for all, the broken and racist criminal justice system that exists in America. We are going to end the international embarrassment of having more people in jail in America than any other country on earth. Instead of spending $80 billion a year on jails and incarceration, we are going to invest in our young people in jobs and education. Jobs and education, not jails and incarceration. We're going to end private prisons and detention centers in America. We're going to end the horrifically destructive war on drugs and legalize marijuana. And we're going to end the disgrace of 400,000 people right now locked behind bars because they are too poor to afford cash bail. We're going to end cash bail in America. And we're going to redefine criminal justice in America. Seems to me a little bit absurd that we have people in jail right now for selling marijuana when we have crooks on Wall Street and in the drug companies who have killed people all over this country not facing any criminal charges. How do you pay? How do you pay billions of dollars in fines for illegal behavior, and yet no criminal charges are made against the CEOs? What we believe in is equal justice under the law, whether you're rich or whether you're poor. And today we say to the American people that instead of demonizing the undocumented immigrants in this country, we're going to pass comprehensive immigration reform and provide a path toward citizenship for all the undocumented. On our first day in office, through executive order, we're going to provide legal status to the 1.8 million young people eligible for the DACA program. and extend that program to their parents. We're going to develop a humane border policy for those who seek asylum. We will not be a government which snatches babies from the arms of their mothers or throws children into cages. And we will put an end to the disastrous raids of the ICE agency. And today on another issue that disgusts the American people who are sick and tired of seeing these mass shootings taking place all over the country, our administration will take on the NRA. We're not going to be intimidated by them. We will move aggressively to end the epidemic of gun violence in this country and pass the common sense gun safety legislation that the overwhelming majority of American people want. Under our administration, people who should not have guns will not have guns. And today, we say loudly and proudly that it is the women of this country who have the right to control their own bodies, not the politicians. And my promise to you is that I will never nominate anyone to the U.S. Supreme Court who is not 100% pro Roe v. Wade and a woman's right to control her own body. Now, you know, when I talk about the proposals that I think we should adopt to protect the working families of this country, I'm often criticized, and people say, Bernie, it's so expensive. How are you going to pay for these proposals? Well, let me tell you exactly how we're going to pay for these proposals. We're going to tell the wealthiest people in this country that they are going to start paying their fair share of taxes. We're going to rescind Trump's tax breaks for the billionaires and large corporations. We're going to end the insanity of providing hundreds of billions in tax breaks and subsidies to the fossil fuel industry. And in my view, we do not have to spend more than the next 10 nations combined on defense spending. Standing before you today, I believe more than I have ever believed that we are at a moment in our great country's history where all of us coming together can create the America that we are entitled to have, the America that we know that we can become. We can create a new America true to the principles that are supposed to be the foundation of our democracy. And I want to ask all of you to do me a favor and to take a look around you. Just take a look around you right here at this assembly of people. And if you look around you, what you will find that we have people here of every race, every gender identity. We have different religions. We have different ethnicities. We have men and women here. We have people who are young, and we have people who are old. We are a reflection of the diversity and the strength of the movement that we have built. And it is that movement, black and white and Latino, Asian American, Native American, all of us coming together. It is that movement that is going to transform this country. Now let me just tell you what you already know. And that our opponents, whether it is the Republican establishment, Democratic establishment, whether it is Wall Street, the insurance companies, drug companies, fossil fuel industry, military industrial complex, prison industrial complex, the whole damn 1%. They're not going to give up their wealth and their power without a fight. And the question that we have got to answer together is, are we prepared to stand up to them and transform this country? I want you all to take a look around and find someone you don't know. Maybe somebody who doesn't look kind of like you. Maybe somebody who might be of a different religion than you. Maybe they come from a different country. My question now to you is, are you willing to fight for that person who you don't even know as much as you're willing to fight for yourself? Are you willing to stand together and fight for those people who are struggling economically in this country? Are you willing to fight for young people drowning in student debt, even if you are not? Are you willing to fight to ensure that every American has health care as a human right, even if you have good health care? Are you willing to fight for frightened immigrant neighbors, even if you are native born? Are you willing to fight for a future for generations of people who have not yet even been born, but are entitled to live on a planet that is healthy and habitable? Because if you are willing to do that, if you are willing to love, if you are willing to fight for a government of compassion and justice and decency, if you are willing to stand up to Trump's desire to divide us up, if you are prepared to stand up to the greed and corruption of the corporate elite, if you and millions of others are prepared to do that, there is no doubt in my mind that not only will we win this election, but together we will transform this country. Thank you all very much.